Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Justin, and I produce under the name Ordinary Fish or Orfi. I'm a lo-fi producer, and I'm really excited to kind of take you behind the beat of this song I made called Fragility. So without further ado, let's get into it. So kind of where I first started making this track. Actually, before we get into that, I want to show you just my session here and what it all looks like, because I think the look is very important as a producer, just to kind of have everything organized. So I kind of color coded everything. You can see I labeled as well. So I have, bells over here. I have my bass guitar. I have my trumpets. I actually have two sets of trumpets. I actually have 5 different trumpets on this track that are kind of feeding into 2 different auxiliary tracks here, which is this one here and this one here, and I'll show you that. I got my drums here, so all my drums are green. They're feeding to different aux tracks as well. And then I also have at the very bottom here another aux track for my stereo verb sends. So if I want to send reverb to a track, I can just enable it on this send over here, which I think I only did this for one track, but I just like having reverb as an option. I think it's a really helpful and useful effect. So let's go ahead and get into just kind of breaking down each layer of this song. So let's go ahead and start off by, I'm going to solo different parts of the song here. So I'm going to solo this first part here. It's my ambient noise. And so I want you to kind of hear what's all happening here. Yeah, so I'm not going to go ahead and play the whole thing, but that is my ambient noise that I'm using. It's from a pack. Spitfire Audio makes, this is free. It's Labs. I'm sure some of you have maybe used it or heard of it. But it's the sound London Atmos, and it's Atmos. And I basically just played a key and just continuously, this is MIDI data here. I just kind of played it didn't play it, but I stretched it to, like 3 minutes and whatever seconds to the end of my song. So that's the ambient noise. And then I also EQ'd it. And I did this EQ. I'll kind of jump into this later in the video, but I kind of did a high pass and low pass for these different frequencies. So kind of cutting off around 250 here and roughly 16K, well, really 8K. But I did that just so I could kind of feed, I could kind of fill the frequency chain or frequency spectrum on my master track here. And so I use this thing called Tonal Balance Control from iZotope. It is a fantastic plugin. I really can't recommend it any higher because it just helps you really balance your song out frequency-wise and just tonally. But when I played my song, and I before I added in the ambient noise, it was just kind of lacking in that area, and so I figured I would just kind of throw on a high pass and a low pass just to kind of fill the frequency spectrum on my master. So that's the ambient noise here. Let's go ahead and jump down to my bells here. And so these are kind of my keys bells. I call them bells, but normally I bounce everything from MIDI to audio to a WAV file, but I just kept it MIDI to show y'all kind of what I got going on here. And so I have 4 different tracks for my melodies, my keys and bells and whatever. So I have 1 bell track here. I have 2. So I have 3 bell tracks. Then I have my auxiliary track here. So everything is sending to this bell's auxiliary. So basically, on each of these tracks here is just the individual instrument itself. And so I use Native Instruments Contact a lot, and so that's what I use for these sounds. And I'll kind of show you what each of those are. And then my bells track, I have an EQ, I have a sound shifter. So this song, I like how this sound shifter adds a really cool like texture and color to a sound. I don't always like it, but I did like it on this particular instance. And so I use that. And then the S1 imager here, just to kind of widen things out a little bit. So this is my sound shifter. You can kind of see I'm raising it 3 semitones and 55 cents. and then my EQ on the keys, just really pushing it around the 500 to 2K region, and then also giving it a boost around between 4 to 16. So that's kind of the setup. Now I'll go ahead and just solo these keys here. I'm going to select my group of bells here, and then I'm going to solo just these so you can hear just the bells. So unfortunately, my CPU is really hurting there, but you can kind of hear the bells. And so I'll break down each bell here, and I'll show you what instruments I'm using. I really like how these layered up. And so I'm gonna have my first bell here is I think it's the, so this is the marimba. This is the orchestral contact. It's a contact orchestral Native Instruments plugin. But I use the marimba, and then I also really mess with the settings on here just to kind of get that feel of like a plucking sound. And so I'll play that just individually. Yep. So you can kind of hear the bells or the marimba. You can hear what that sounds like. And then I'm gonna go down here to the second bell here and play that for you. So that's the second bell. That is actually the patch that I started with for this song, and it had this cool texture. I used the instrument called Lo-Fi Glow. You know, making lo-fi, I might as well use a plugin called Lo-Fi Glow. And I used the preset called Havana, but then I really went in there and just tweaked it. And I didn't like how much noise this plugin was putting off, and so I reduced the noise of it. And I did just like how it layered a little bit of texture, but really it's just kind of just a texturizer. That's really all it's doing, is just adding texture, and it is also creating a cool sound, but I didn't want it to be my focal point. Otherwise it would have sounded too noisy to me. And the third bell is pretty quiet. So that is another orchestral instrument. It's the xylophone, and I like how it just kind of added a little bit more high-end tinny to it. And so you kind of layer those all three together, and this is what you get. Now, I do want to point out what you're about to hear is pitch shifted, and it's also got an EQ on it. So let's go ahead and play that. Sorry. So I'm not going to really go into breaking it down too much, but basically that's how I layered these bells, these keys, to make that cool melody. So let's go ahead and jump down here to the bass guitar. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just make these a little bit bigger. Cool. So the bass guitar is a really cool part of this track. I loved how it all kind of fit together. And something I really love to do, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on my MIDI here, and I love so these little deals right here, the velocity controllers, like they're super critical if you want to create a human and real sounding instrument. And I think with Native Instruments especially, you can do that. You can create very real instruments. And I do a technique just called ghost notes a lot of the time, so I'll just kind of add in very quiet notes, and I spend a lot of time just clicking and just doing whatever I feel like I need to create a very human sound here. But yeah, I just, create ghost notes. And so I will play it sometimes, but a lot of times I just like to click, and it just sounds better to me, but to each their own. So the bass guitar here, I'm going to go ahead and just play the bass guitar for you, just a snippet. Yeah, so really what's doing the most of the work there is this plugin called Rickenbacker Bass. I love it. It sounds super realistic. It's a Native Instruments plugin, and it just sounds fantastic. And then you can click each module of the instrument and adjust it and create just a really cool sound. There's presets. When I produce, I like to use presets and then tweak them pretty dramatically just to kind of create my own sound to it. But I like to produce quickly. So that's the bass guitar. Let's go ahead and jump down to the trumpets. Now I have two different trumpets here. Let me actually solo out of here. So I'm going to start with trumpet 1 here. Let's go ahead and make these. I'm actually going to make all these tracks bigger just to make my life a little easier. Okay. So I'm going to show you guys the first trumpet sound I made, which is a really weird, it's got a lot of cool stuff going on with it. So I'm going to show you this here. I'm going to just solo this as a whole. Yeah, so I really love that sound. It's just a weird, textured, hyper delayed sound, and it just really added to the track. So something I want to point out here, I have on this on my auxiliary track here, I have muted and unmuted. So if I go here to my mute automation, I did mute and unmute this. I don't know why I ended up doing it like this, to be honest with you, but it kind of sounded and it worked. But I basically, I created this melody and I layered, see if I can show you maybe a smaller view here. I went ahead and layered like many different, so I think I used the same trumpet sound, but what I did was I kind of I articulated it differently. And so the articulation here was really critical for this sound. I used the Session Horns plugin by, I think this is another, I think a Native Instruments plugin. But I, kind of just tweaked different. So this one has a rip articulation. The other one was a shake. And I did tweak some other settings on this, Deutz, whatever that means. But it just added, really cool, different, unique sounds. And then feeding into my aux track, like I mentioned, I have the mute and unmute. So I didn't want this, when I initially created it, I just had it playing way more than I really wanted to. And so I just muted it and unmuted it just to kind of have it only come in when I wanted it to. But on my aux track here, I have my little pitch shifting just to kind of, keep in key with the whole song. And then I did my guitar rig. This is really what's doing that crazy delay sound. Guitar rig by Native Instruments, great plugin. I think Deep Meditation is my preset, and then I just went in and jacked with it a little bit and made it sound really cool. So it was all just kind of based on what I was hearing. And then the last piece is this Q10, which is basically just taking it out around 6K, killing it a little bit because there was a little bit of harshness. And then also reducing between 20K down to like 10K, just because there was some harshness there. So that's my first trumpet sound. Now my second trumpet sound is this guy right here. So this is a really, really cool sound. I don't even know how I stumbled across this, but I love this sound. Basically, this is my my main trumpet sound here. So I'm gonna go ahead and play it here. And so there's different notes played. I'm not gonna play them all, but there's different notes played just to kind of create a counter melody with a trumpet. And I just love how it sounds. It sounds kind of like Disney-esque to me. And so that's just so I'm using the trumpet mute preset from Native Instruments, the Native Instruments library. I'm also using another one, but I just kind of process them differently. And then that's feeding into my aux track here, which I have a Q10 that I think I automated to bypass and unbypass. And then I have my reverb coming from stereo here. Awesome. So yeah, that's probably my favorite sound in this whole song. And then I'm just going to very quickly play you the drums for all this. I'm not going to really go into too much depth. I use the plugin Battery for my drums. And then I have my snares, my kicks, my whatever going to aux tracks. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly play you man, this view is really killing me here. Make this smaller here. There we go. Yep, so I'm just going to go ahead and play you the drums real quick here so you can kind of hear with just soloed. Okay, so that's a really simple just drums that I programmed. Like I said, I don't really play MIDI. I don't play my keyboard. I just like to pencil in, and that way I have more adjustment. I can raise or lower the velocity, and I know that's probably super tedious for a lot of you, but for me, it just works. So the last track that I keep is my verbs, and so I love this. I love the Isotope Neo Verb plugin, and so I use this. I use the preset widen, and then I kind of tweaked it a little bit. But I also EQ'd I did a brick wall EQ, so that way it's only catering to these frequencies, because like I mentioned with earlier with the ambient noise, it just, when I played the tonal balance, it was really quiet, kind of between 500 to 4,000. It just wasn't where I wanted it. And so I figured if I'm going to have something feeding in to that master, I want it to kind of cater to those frequencies to kind of just create a more fuller sound. And so I EQ'd my reverb just through an aux track. And then I threw it on my trumpet because I thought my trumpet was the thing that really needed to add that boost in that range. So yeah, that's pretty much how I made this song. It was a lot of fun making. I really look forward to sharing more behind the scenes videos with you guys. Just let me know if you like these kind of videos. Press the subscribe button, the bell for notifications, leave a comment. I really want to hear what your thoughts are. And I'm just really excited to drop a ton of more music. So thanks, guys.